Alright guys, Hatchcomic again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. The OGs versus new gen debate continues. Scrappy, we know, has a hardline opinion on a lot of these conversations, but his owner now of his own team, the guy that pays his salary, is none other than Mr. Nadeshot, part of the legendary OpTic teams, and of course now owner of the 100 Thieves and therefore the Los Angeles Thieves organization. Scrappy though says, look, this Nadeshot guy, put me up against him back in the day, he would get his world absolutely ran by me, and to be fair, is Scrappy wrong? Maybe not necessarily, but Nadeshot says, hang on a second, sunshine, before you make some of those statements, especially with what he said about Scump just the other day. Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Thought this was kind of cool as well from Zinni. I know this guy's been doing the rounds like he FaZe uncle whenever he goes, but I know that he's been in a few of the events as well, and well, he's supported of a couple of different teams. I think it's great to see stuff like this going around actually as well, and a few clips to get into as well. This was an interesting one from Dashy, I thought. I'm not exactly sure why he turned to the right-hand side here, but yeah, here we are on the protocol, and yeah, these zip lines, they definitely have caused a bit of controversy, haven't they? Because it was a big talking point the other day from the likes of, I think it was Shane who made the point about why are we getting rid of rewinds when it's one of the only maps without some of this cheese. Now, whether you consider it to be cheese or not, I don't know. Dashy looks like a bit of a clown here with the kill cam, but the zipline stuff on one map is a bit of a gimmick, maybe no problem, but of course a couple of maps have features like this going on. Obviously on the Skyline there's also that element as well. The Skyline also has another underground part to the map, and at least rewind for maybe all of its flaws on some level isn't as bad. But let's get into this kind of OG versus new gen debate stuff. I thought this was cool from Brian Sats as well to point out that Nadeshot was like the absolute OG of competitive COD. I mean, back in the day when I was first getting into the scene, I was more of like a Scump watcher than a Nadeshot watcher, but I did watch both of them, and probably my favourite series ever to watch on YouTube, just full stop, was Road to 100 No. I know that many of you guys will know exactly what I'm talking about here, when Nadeshot would play GBs with Money B, and it was Nade and Bo's Road to 100 No, and then eventually he did a couple of series with Merc, I think, back in the day, and then Bo's would come back from time to time. I think he even did a few of them with Scump at one point. So, yeah, legendary stuff. Of course, it was on Black Ops 3, which makes it even better, as you know, as you well know, and like the timing that it would come out for me over in the UK, like I'd watch episode 1, episode 2, and then if there was a third map of the series, it would usually come out like just before I was about to go to bed. Sensational content. But yeah, Nadeshot, of course, from a gaming perspective, absolute OG, when he signed in January 2013, so just a couple of months after Black Ops 2 came out, with Red Bull as like a Red Bull athlete back in the day, and yeah, pretty crazy to think that he was far smaller at the time than he became shortly afterwards. But yeah, Nadeshot, the Red Bull hat, the OpTic gaming days, that's kind of what it's all about. But over the last few days, there's been lots of talk from this man on where these guys sit. It's a common discussion that's had in all sorts of sports about, well, is the newer generation just simply better than the older generation from like a peak skill perspective, just because they've had more time to play and the game has evolved on a certain level? Like if you go back and watch the way that Black Ops 2 was played competitively for Hardpoint, for example, I don't think it would be played the same way today. Like, you know, to be fair, that game kind of relied a bit on an anchor player to hold the spawns, and it's understandable why the players played the way that they did. But back then, even in Ghost, for example, there was an objective player, you know, like Nadeshot was the OBJ, TP from Complexity, he was the OBJ. Doesn't really exist nowadays. It's far more fluid, and I think that has partly to do with the game, but also partly to do with the fact that the game has evolved to some degree. And you know, but do the players today shoot straighter than they used to, or are they simply easier games to shoot in? I think that's probably more likely, to be honest, at least as most of the reason. We see it, for example, you go back and play Black Ops 2 OpTic Legacy match, Dynasty versus New Gen, and they get slabbed, right? Now, obviously, that's game knowledge to some degree, but it's not like, you know, you could have a series between Kremp, Scump, Karma, and Formal, and obviously Pred isn't around anymore for OpTic for now, but look, let's say Shotzzy, Dashy, Kenny, and Hook, or whatever. You have that starting roster, and you have the OG Dynasty, or whatever you want to say, and you play them on 10 different COD games. Who's going to win the most? I mean, it might be competitive. The Dynasty might win. I think it's one of those two options, to be honest. I don't think it's going to be a runaway for success for the newer generation, although Scrappy might argue that there's just more talent nowadays. So anyway, that was Scrappy's point of view. I think also what Scrappy was kind of implying, though, is that it is difficult to compare across eras. It's been, you know, in chess, it's an interesting conversation topic because, you know, there's greats like Fischer, Kasparov, and Carlsen, of course, of today. And Carlsen is, like, by the numbers, basically the strongest player ever. But of course, all of his knowledge about the game is built to some degree on everything that's come before him. And does it work exactly the same way in COD? Not necessarily, but obviously in other sports it's true as well. You try and compare eras in football or in like, soccer, that I was basically trying to say, but okay, football, like American football works as well, basketball or whatever. Like you try and compare all the greats in the respective generations. Formula 1, the same thing applies. It's different eras, different levels of like fitness and understanding about that from the player's perspective. And in regular sports, all those conversations are relevant to, and obviously technology as well is a big deal in many sports that's changed over time. Do those things really apply in COD to the same degree? It's a question. I don't know. Sam Phoenix gave his thoughts on it the other day and said, like, Scrap isn't necessarily saying that Scump isn't the greatest. He's just saying that the talent now is at another level compared to what it used to be. And, like, I don't know if that's necessarily true. I mean, maybe it's true that when Scump retired, he wasn't the best player in the league anymore when he retired, but it was still very close, and he didn't really like the game especially much. If Scump was 100% fully committed to coming back today, could he still, you know, be right there as the most talented player in the game? I don't disagree with that assessment, to be honest. So, I don't know, I think it's interesting. And Den says, counterpoint to the idea that there's more talent today than there used to be, the OpTic Dynasty played the world champions OpTic Texas in a throwback, and you know, different measurements of skill back then, but you know, obviously it's difficult to argue, but okay, obviously if you're arguing that all the new gen are more talented than the old gen, then you might expect a different result. And Dens goes on to say there might be an element of more hours. Most of those maps were brought back in Black Ops 4 Cold War, they wouldn't be strangers to them either, and you know, then Phoenix's valid point, Dens. And obviously we're making the comparison to traditional sports. The guardrails and rules have been very similar for over 100 years. So naturally with advancements and support, records will be broken and people will emerge. But, you know, maybe in COD it's not quite the same thing. Sure, in COD things have changed a bit as well. More support now, like obviously salaries are now a thing in COD, more so than they used to be. There's been advancements, people actually coaching and stuff as well. And I think it's probably true to argue that there's more competition nowadays than maybe there used to be, because you look at, you know, some of the teams that were dominating back in the day. Look, at the end of the day, FaZe have not succeeded as they should have done, given the talent they've had over the last few years. But would they have, like, let's say the OpTic Dynasty didn't exist and you teleport FaZe back then, they probably would have won a higher percentage than they did today. Not saying they'd have been on the Dynasty's level by any means, but I do think today there is more competition on some level, because back then, you know, the 6th best team was not even getting paid like a proper salary necessarily to be able to compete at a high level. So, you know, realistically, there are only a few teams that are ever going to achieve all that much. So, you know, I think there's an argument that maybe there is more talent today. There might be more competition. Whether that manifests in the way that some players think it does is a question, obviously. And look, it doesn't prevent these guys from being, you know, the best ever. But I do think there's a big argument to say, and I still kind of struggle with this question myself. What's it going to take for a newer generation player to overtake or even match Scump? Or any of those guys, to be honest, at the top of the field? I mean, the likes of a Priestahh, or where's Simp in your top 10? Simp's in my top 10. I don't know where I put him right now. Like, he's probably in the bottom 5 of my top 10. But he's close to the top 5, I think. But he might not be there yet. I'm not sure. It's tricky. And if he wins one more ring, where does he go? I mean, he'll be tied at 3, but he won't have as many event wins. But he'll have been like an absolute top player for year upon year. It's always a difficult discussion. So this is kind of a similar point, really, to where we get with Nadeshot. So Scrappy was then watching some OG videos here involving Nade from the OpTic gaming days way back in Call of Duty Ghost, and Nadeshot, of course, is watching and having a good time as well. And Scrappy makes the following point on his boss.
This guy cannot run me on any COD, I promise you. Not any COD. You're tweaking? Yeah, I know, guys. This is your guys' go. We get it. I know. You guys love this guy. You guys love this guy. I'd run his world. I know. I know he's your GOAT. The goon with each other, whatever the he says. But I'd run his road. Are you gonna disrespect your boss? Go watch his stream of him watching us. Anything. This guy disrespects me crazy. I can't even say anything.
Bro, it's been 3 matches.
Whatever he wants about me. Guess what? I'm allowed to say whatever the I want about him.
That's not how that works.
Holy he already looks like he's 30 here. He already looks like he's pushing 30 in AW. I swear he's like 21 there, or like 22.
I was growing a beard, bro.
So of course Nade isn't going to back down too easily from stuff like this. Nade, to be fair, I think deserves more respect for his competitive Call of Duty career. People, I don't think, give him the credit for the fact that before he retired, basically, after the Advanced Warfare World Championship, where unfortunately they came 7th that year, HBR instance, whatever you want to say. But before that moment, Nade, with those guys, with Scump, Kremp, and Formal, won everything at the start of the year. And, I mean, look, if you look at the events that he played and the tournaments that he was involved in over the previous years, winning COD XP, of course, famously the first $1 million tournament in COD. And look, the game was different back then. But I do often think Nadeshot deserves a bit more respect from the community for what he achieved back in the day. And probably the greatest blitz player you're ever going to see back in Call of Duty Ghost as well. So, look, Scrappy obviously knows Nadeshot, gives him the respect that he deserves on some level. But as a player, understandably, Scrappy's like, I'd have slammed this guy. You know, I get it, right, obviously. But at the same time, Nade is your boss. He's paying your salary. So maybe you want to calm it down a little bit. But it's good, I think, the relationship those guys have over there. And of course, Scrappy has got to deliver on what he's promised to the team, especially with OpTic. They're the world champions. They've gone through some problems, right? Pred's out of the team. He may come back. He may not. We're not sure right now. Hook is in for the time being. FaZe have had a horrific start to the season by their standards. So this, you know, by all the evidences we've seen so far, should be Los Angeles Thieves' year to not only win, but potentially win big. I mean, they could dominate this year. It's not impossible. This is the year, surely, for Scrappy to get his World Championship win. He's been around the block for the last couple of years, not quite done it. HyDra wants another one, of course. And you look at the state of the league this year. Right now, Ravens are the top team in the league. OpTic, I mean, it could be another difficult transition season for them, and FaZe, I'm sure they'll come back relatively strong, but it just might not be their best year for whatever reason. So this, you know, obviously Nadeshot knows this, Scrappy knows this is their chance to really deliver, and the pressure's on to do so, because sure, Nadeshot didn't win a world championship, but he won multiple championships. His organization has already won one with a different team with Scrappy not on it, so you know, he paid a lot of money, paid a lot of, you know, personal sacrifices to make this team happen with Scrap. It's about time that Scrap pays him back in, imagining the server in the relatively near future. But very much interested to your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.
Like, it's only Vic. I don't know where anybody else is at, bro.
I just died. Come right up.
Where? Then what? Oh! Oh shit! Monitor down! Monitor down! Oh shit! Oh, it's broken in half, bro!
No! What happened?
Why did you break them?
I need heals! I need heals!
So many heals.
Heals time! Heals! We get some heals time!
No way!
I need heals!
It should have been me.
No way, man!
What'd you do? I just need heals,
No way!
His monitors are on the ground.